Hello beautiful knitting people, how are you? It's Ailsa. I'm back for another episode of We Are Wool People. On this channel we talk about knitting, and nice to see you here again today. I thought today that I would catch you up with how I went with my neighbour's 100th birthday present knit. You may recall, if you were here last time, or if you weren't, I'll just tell you what I did. My next door neighbour turned 100 years old last weekend, and I thought that I would make her a shawl. Because, you know, what do you buy someone who's 100? Anyway, she still lives at home. She's still in very, very ruddy health, and she's a very lovely lady. I have this Japanese knitting pattern book called New Style of Heirloom Knitting that I bought many years ago, and I thought that I would make her this shawl called the Bloomin' Grass shawl. And there it is. That's what it looks like. Hopefully you can see that. So the shawl's knitted in a triangle to start with, in a lovely lace stitch in a solid colour, and then you pick up along the sides of the triangle and you knit a feather and fan style striped repeat for as long as you like, I guess, and then at the very end there's a 22 stitch horizontal border that is added as you go all the way around the entire perimeter of the shawl. You pick up all the way along. Some stitches are live already, but you pick up all the way around and you knit, cast on 22 stitches, and you knit back and forth, absorbing one stitch every 2 rows all the way around the shawl. The actual border pattern starts with 22 stitches. It's a 10 row repeat, but the stitch count changes all the way through out those 10 rows, and every 10 rows only absorbs 5 of the stitches, right? So it's a fairly traditional method of adding a border to a cobweb weight / lace weight shawl. The pattern was entirely written in Japanese, and I was able to interpret it based on the schematic, the stitch counts and the chart. I won't lie and say it was easy. It was a bit of a challenge, but I have in fact knitted this before, although I didn't add the border all the way around the previous project. So how did I go? Well, I did find that the central triangle went really quickly, and then the feather and fan addition, because as you can imagine, as you get further and further around, the number of stitches on the project increases, so it was taking a little bit more time. But once I did cast on for the border and started to knit horizontally back and forth around the border, absorbing a stitch every second row, I did find that it really slowed me down. The border pattern is not very intuitive. It was actually quite difficult. I was having quite a bit of trouble following it and keeping my row count straight. And on Thursday night last week, I actually bit the bullet and decided that I wasn't going to be able to finish it using that border. At the time, I was about, less than a third of the way around the project, and it was Thursday afternoon. I had Thursday night, Friday and Saturday to finish it, because I wanted to get it blocked Saturday night and wrapped up Sunday. And I was, at that point, I think there were about 800 stitches left on the needle, and every 10 rows was only absorbing 5 stitches. So, you do the math. It was going to take me, I think I worked out that it was probably going to be about 18 hours of knitting on Thursday when I bit the bullet and said, no, that's not going to work. So what I did was I undid the horizontal border, and I kept the live stitches for the entire project on the needle, and I consulted my trusty Barbara Walker stitch dictionary of knitting stitches, the red one, the best one, and I found a really lovely lacy, edgy, sort of frothy pattern, and I did 15 rows of that around the entire perimeter of the shawl. And then on Friday night, when I was casting it off, late, tired and in the dark, and I dropped, right at the very beginning as I began the cast off, I dropped some stitches, and that led me to have to unravel a really kind of, I think about a 15-16 stitch portion of the lace border, and unravel it back about 8 rows when I was going to sit and do it on the Friday night, but it was really late and I was I was very upset, so I put it away, and then on Saturday morning I got up and I pinned it all out, and I had to do some rather emergency intensive lace knitting surgery on it to bring it back to life, and it took me many hours, and it was really kind of fraught with stress, but I did it, and I brought it back to life, and I blocked it on the floor on a coverlet using my blocking wires and a lot of pins. When I discovered that the Temu cashmere, I don't know if it's superwash treated or what, but the Temu cashmere held with that strand of what's likely to be an acrylic yarn didn't hold a block very well. It sprung right back. It's still soft and lovely, but it definitely wanted to go back to the sort of more crumpled way that it was when the knitting first came off. The mohair silk did in fact block quite nicely, and anyway I left it out to block, and then on the Sunday morning, like literally 20 minutes before I had to be there, I put it on. I put some of the border on the ironing board and pinned it out, pulled it down, and actually starched it using a spray starch for the iron, just so that when I handed it over, it'd have a nice crispy feathery edge on it on the sides. But having said that, I wrapped it all up, and I found a lovely card that had a little crocheted flower on it, and I took it and gave it to Juliana for her 100th birthday, and I do think she really did like it. It was a lovely get-together, and I was very relieved to see the back of that project, and I think it suited her, and I think that she'll wrap that around her shoulders this winter and enjoy that I made that by hand for her. I hope so anyway. So yes, success, worked. So then that gave me some time, although I did work on nothing but that shawl for most of last week. I have in fact knitted the one sleeve on my cashmere cardigan / pullover, of which I'm still not quite sure whether it's going to be a cardigan or a pullover. I'll just quickly show it to you, and I'll show you this sleeve because I've actually got quite a bit of footage of the progress of this project blow by blow, and I think I'll upload a separate project vlog for it. But there's the sleeve that I've finished. I kept it nice and wide, and then I decreased it really dramatically towards the end, and it's got a lovely narrow band, and it sits really well on the arm. I'm really happy with that, the way that's come out. It's a drop shoulder. I did use the Rook bind off on this cuff, and you can see it's a little bit snug. I may end up going back and doing something a little bit looser there, but for now it can stay there until I get the other sleeve also knitted to the same length, and at that point I'll try it all on and I'll decide what I'm going to do with the fronts. I have mirrored this against a jumper that I already own that I bought, and I've used that as a template to sort of gauge how I'm going each step of the way. But what I may end up doing with this is possibly wrapping the fronts and securing it like that to make it a wrap cardigan, rather than joining it vertically down the front. But we will get to that when we get to it. This project I've held the Cardiff Cashmere Prime that was gifted to me as a collaboration with Yarnicopia. I held that double, and in fact this has only used 7 balls of yarn so far for me, and I'm going to finish this project using 7 balls of yarn, which is fantastic. So therefore I had a little bit of Cardiff Cashmere left over because I was gifted 10 balls. And so in order to make something to match that, because I've noticed out there in the shops that for this winter particularly, that colour blocking, you know, where your entire outfit is the same colour, is still hanging in there. It's been around, that kind of thing's been around for a few seasons. And I also noticed that I think it was Irene Lynn that dropped a pattern on Ravelry last week for a beautiful airy lace scarf called the Dew Scarf, and so I cast on for a Dew scarf using only a single thread of this Cardiff Cashmere Prime in Cristobal, and it's coming out really well. It's really interesting and it's quite fun. It's a 4-row repeat and it requires a little bit of concentration. I've only done a few repeats there, and I have actually had to go back once or twice just to make sure that I was on the right track. But I think that this is got a shape similar to the Sophie shawl. It's a small scarf. I mean, I know, who am I knitting a small scarf? I don't even like them. But this, I think, is going to be really lovely around the neck with that cardigan. And I also do think that it would make a really lovely gift knit of this exquisite yarn that has in fact ruined me for all other knitting yarns, possibly for the rest of my life. It's unbelievably weightless, soft and luxurious. Beautiful. And I can't wait for Yarnicopia to put their card of cashmere up on their site live. The teaser's up there. I think it should probably happen tomorrow, certainly by the end of this week, I'd say, because you'll be interested to see the price of the card of cashmere when it does go up on the Yarnicopia site, because I would suggest that it's actually a way better price than what I've seen it for sale in retail stores in Australia. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to get some more in another colour. Oh. So now that my neighbour's shawl's finished and I'm very, very close to finishing my card of cashmere pullover or cardigan, I am ready for my next project. So very excitingly, today is the day of the Melides Dress cast on. I'm very excited about this project. I'm knitting this together with Tash from Mostly Knitting, and as a matter of fact, I think I'll text her right now and tell her that I'm casting on my Melides dress. Give me a second, I'm just going to text Tash. Done. I've texted Tash, told her I'm casting on, so it's going to happen. The first thing you have to do when making your Melides dress is do an enormous number of measurements of your body, like this. And then you need to do a Judy's Magic cast on. Pretzel, shut up. So that's what I'm going to start doing right now. I'm going to do all these measurements and I'm going to write them all down, and then I'm going to start Judy's Magic cast on. Oh, sorry about that dog barking, sorry. Judy's Magic cast on around the waist, because what you do is you start at the waist and you knit upwards to begin with to do the top bodice, and then you later come back and knit downwards for the skirt. This project is not going to be a quick knit. My gauge swatch is too small to be reliable, but I'm using Issika Trio in this really beautiful petroleum green colour, and it's looking slightly more green on screen than it really is. It's a bit bluer than that, but it's a really lovely dark. It's got a melange kind of colouring in it, there's almost a black thread running through it. It's really got quite a lot of depth. It's a beautiful colour, and I'm going to knit it. I believe, here's another problem with the gauge swatch, I'm not 100% sure what needle size I used for it, but I believe it's a 275 that I've knitted it on, and there's the fabric, which in this light does look quite sheer, but up against the body I think it's going to be all right. In any case, as I mentioned once before, I'm not going to knit a midi length dress on a 2.5mm needle. That would be insane. My challenges are right now is that this swatch that I've done on a 275mm needle is too small to be reliable, but given how unreliable I've found all of my gauge swatches to be in the last couple of months, I think I'm just going to go with this gauge to start with and check it regularly throughout the project as the pattern suggests. It also will probably grow a little bit. The row count will definitely grow, they say by about 5%, I think. So I'm just going to start with an estimate for my waist measurement and begin the knitting after I've done all of these very complicated body measurements. So there are other whips and there is other knitting going on around here, but today I just thought I'd pop in and tell you about how Juliana's 100th birthday shawl went, let you know how I'm going with the cashmere project, and to tell you that today's the day for my Melides cast on. I'm really excited, and I'm going to finish up here, do all my measurements, get my Judy's Magic cast on. Oh, that reminds me. I remember Judy Becker, and I remember that she published her Judy's Magic cast on technique in nitty.com back in like 2011 or something. I don't actually know if Judy did in fact invent Judy's Magic cast on, but since 2011, I think it could have been 2009, but anyway, since that article was published in Nitty, it's certainly become known as Judy's Magic cast on. Traditionally used to do a toe-up sock, this particular treatment, the Judy's Magic cast on, is used around the waist so that you can begin to knit up or you can knit down. So that's what I'll be doing today. I'm going to be doing my measurements and casting on for my Melides dress. At that time though, I'm going to have 3 active whips on the needles that are all really hard on my hands, because the weightlessness of that cashmere means that it actually does, it's a little bit taxing for my wrist and my tendinosis in my elbow. That's going to be the same. There's going to be a lot of breaks needed to complete this project. So I may have to splice all this up with some knitting of some normal thickness yarn on needles that are slightly bigger. But we will see how we go. So on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. I hope that all your knitting's going well. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. I'm supposed to do this in the nutty, but this...
There is only one of you, only one of me. There's a million of those who won't let us be, but they're not gonna see me bleed. Cause baby, I got you. I've been beaten to the ground, dragged across the dirt. I've been scared to live cause some people never learn, but they're not gonna